Welcome back to another episode of 50 Shades in Grey, where today we are going to dive in headfirst into one of humanity's emotional questions: monogamy versus non monogamy. Yep, that's right. It's easy for me to say. We're talking about love, passion, sex, commitment, jealousy, and the eternal question: can one person really be your everything? So, whether you're swiping for your soulmate or trying to fix everyone into a week of seeing everyone at the same time with three different partners, or currently trying to go with someone, this podcast may be for you. But first, let's travel back in time for a second so we can understand where monogamy came from. So, monogamy is the idea that you're only romantically and sexually involved with one person at a time. Seems super normal to most people in today's age, right? But, and here's the but, it wasn't always actually the case. In fact, if you go back to our early hunter-gatherer ancestors, people weren't doing the whole till death do us part thing. That's kind of a fairly recent construct. They were more likely to be with you until they wandered off and hooked up with another caveman around another campsite or another cave woman. And many anthropologists actually argue that early human societies were far more egalitarian, it's easy for me to say, were far more equal and shared resources, including the romantic kind. But then came agriculture, probably not the most romantic origin of monogamy. When humans settled down and started growing crops, it suddenly mattered who your kids were. You couldn't just have Gary raising Steve's kids while Brenda milked the goats, because property, land, and inheritance all got involved. All boils down to money. And suddenly there was the concept of monogamy. If you then fast forward through a few thousand years, we are now in a world where monogamy is the standard. And it's not the universal standard, I might add, but nevertheless the standard and expectation all the same. But, and I say this is a big but, monogamy might be common, but does this mean it's a natural thing or the better thing? Or is it just the easier thing? So whatever is monogamy, is it sexual monogamy in that you sleep with one person, only one person, or that you just only have romantic feelings for one person? Or is it both? In theory, you love one person. You make each other laugh, you're intimate with them only, you grow old together, and maybe you die within weeks of each other. But in practice, well, let's be honest. We all quietly know people who confide they haven't been sexually intimate with their partners in years, yet who remain emotionally monogamous. I really believe in monogamy. It can be a beautiful thing, but I wonder if it also can be a pressure cooker of unrealistic expectations. But what's the alternative? Non-monogamy. Now, this is an umbrella term for everything that isn't strictly monogamy. It includes polyamory. That's where you have romantic partners. No, that's not names of two girls. It's not polyamory, but it's multiple romantic relationships with everyone's consent. Open relationships where you have a main partner, but you sleep with others. Swinging, where married people turn to date night into more of a kind of a group activity. You may be listening and thinking, could that even work? Well, I guess for some people it does. And I guess the answer is sometimes yes and sometimes no, just like monogamy. Maybe it's helpful to think about the pros and cons to each one. Pros of monogamy seem so simple. One person. It's simplicity itself. You just date one person, you see one person, you don't have to worry about other people, you don't have to hide your phone, you're in love with someone, there's a feeling of trust, you know each other, it's comfortable, you can hopefully be yourself. So basically, it's simple. Stability. Now, stability is all about something that's going to be there for you no matter what. You're going to be able to rely on this person through thick and thin. So when the stuff hits the fans, which, in life it does, you're going to have someone by your side who's going to support you, hopefully. Social acceptance. Now, if you're in a group and you tell everyone you're swingers, I'm sure, and I don't know this is the case, but socially it's not seen as the norm, so therefore is not accepted. However, being with one person, this is my wife. If you walk into a party and go, yeah, I'm with all of these people here, it doesn't carry the same weight as this is my wife. Jealousy management. Now, if you're a sort of jealous person, then you're going to struggle with your partner talking to people, going out with other people, and having multiple relationships. So if you suffer with jealousy issues, I'm guessing that's not going to be for you. And what are the cons of monogamy? There's a kind of pressure, I guess, to monogamy where, especially if you meet young, that it's like this is the person that you're going to be with the rest of your life. Now, I guess when you go back a few thousand years, the rest of your life wasn't that long. People were dying in their 40s and their 50s, and further you go back, the earlier people were dying. So the rest of your life wasn't necessarily a long time. People are living till is plus now. That's very common. So if you're meeting someone in your teenage years and you're going to settle down with them, there's a big pressure that you're only ever going to be with this person. You're only going to ever experience one person. Now, to some people, that's a beautiful thing. The next one is boredom. People can get bored in relationships. They can get bored of the same person. They can get bored of the routine. They can get bored of knowing each other too well. There's no excitement. That when you first meet someone, that first time that you take them out and you experience each other and they laugh at your jokes that, 30 years later, I'm not sure if they're still laughing at the same crap jokes that you tell, but it relieves that boredom as well sometimes. That's one of the cons of monogamy is that a lot of people, I think, in relationships do get very bored. Then let's look at the non-monogamy. What are the pros of non-monogamy? Because there's got to be a few, right? So let's look at those. You get freedom and you get variety. You get to see someone in a bar and you think, I'd like to spend the night with them. And you can, but then you can still go home to your husband and your wife. There is a freedom and variety to non-monogamy that is exciting because you never know what's going to be around the corner. And what it does take away, I guess, is that feeling of when you're single, you know that you're alone. So I think there's a lot more pressure when you go out, especially when you're younger. Not so much when you're older. So I think when you're older, you settle into your skin a lot more, and you're far more comfortable. But I do remember when I was going out when I was younger, I had friends that they saw every night out as an opportunity to meet people, or is this the night I'm going to meet my partner that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with? And very very often I'd find that they weren't even enjoying the night out because they were so desperate in trying to find someone that they wanted to meet or just someone that they wanted to take home that you never actually got to spend any time with them anyway because they were like meerkats. They were constantly looking around at everywhere they go. What's next and what's over there and let's go and talk to her and let's go and talk to him and all and you never got to enjoy their company. More honesty, that could be one of the pros. That you don't have to lie anymore. So all these people that have been cheated on by partners, if they were in non-monogamous relationship, then that'd be fine because it would be allowed. What the rules are of their relationship of non-monogamy, I have no idea. I mean, they might talk about it, and we're going to get onto this later on. But there potentially there could be the most honest where you both know what's going on. You both know what the rules are. You both know that you're allowed to experience other things, experience other people. And guys, we're not just talking about sexually here. This could be just emotionally. It could be someone that you enjoy going out for dinner, laughing with. It doesn't need to be sexually monogamy. It can be, like we said, it can be emotional. So that could be one of the pros to it. Personal growth. If you're expanding your horizons with people, you're meeting different people, you're experiencing different things, you're experiencing different situations, that could help you grow. That could take you further into getting to know yourself, to your likes, your dislikes. If you are used to the same thing all of the time, a bit like food, if you're constantly eating chicken all the time and you've never experienced any other taste, maybe you've never experienced steak and you only have chicken, there's an argument to say, well, if you've never had it, you're never going to miss it. But there's also an argument to say that, yeah, but what if you taste it and think it's great? Then you like two things. Then you know that, yeah, you love chicken, but on some days you're going to love steak. So there is the aspect of personal growth, and your personal journey can be more fulfilling. So, what are the cons of non monogamy? Scheduling hell. It must be a nightmare. It's hard enough trying to fit one person into your life and do that well, rather than having two or three different people and remembering all the details that you need to remember for more than one person. Two, you need to know where you're going in the evening. Then you're trying to fit in things for yourself. I can only imagine you're constantly running around if you're in non-monogamous relationships, and it must be exhausting at times where you just think, "Oh God, this is great at times, but it's so complicated." We all know that those feelings of when you were younger and maybe you were dating two or three people at the same time, that texting people back, remembering conversations, and then having your phone on silent when you were with other people and hiding your phone and making sure messages don't come through at the wrong time. And we all have got friends that have had stories of when messages have come through and their partners are sitting next to them and it goes horribly wrong. So the scheduling hell for that, that must be an absolute nightmare. Jealousy. There's still got to be jealousy exists, because I don't see how in a non-monogamous relationship, if you're with someone that you care about and you've both said, we're going to agree to see other people, and they're both fine with that, there must still be a jealousy. Because if you've got these deep feelings for someone and that that they've been with someone else, do you not think, do they enjoy their company more than me? Do they find this person more entertaining than me? Do they find them sexier than me? Do they find them funnier than me? There must always be that thought in your mind that, where jealousy must still, to a certain degree, just still exist. Social judgment. You know, you're going to be judged socially if you're honest about it. And listen, if you're not going to be honest about it, you're kind of doing it in secret anyway. So you're hiding it. And then it may just be for you and your partner to know. I don't know, but maybe you'll find yourself having to hide who you really are because you're worried about social judgment. Isn't that to the detriment of what you both believe in? Or well, I guess it's no one else's business what you both do. If you're fully behind that idea of this is right for us, would you not tell people socially, or would you only tell people socially that had the same kind of thinking as you? I don't know. The emotional labor must be intensive, and it just must be tiring, surely, because you're dealing with all of these sort of cons to everything all the time. And it must be hard work. I can only imagine it being really hard work. So there is the emotional labor to it as well. So which one is really better? So this is where we're going to get a little bit deeper with it, I think, and have a look at it, because I'd want to be in a situation where I was just with one person, and it is about trust, because I can't imagine being with a person that I think that much about, knowing that they're with other people. I'd find that very hard for me. And I think you must have to be a certain type of character. But even if you are a certain type of character, I find that there's always risk with this. Because, yes, let's look at it that you both decide that you're going to be swingers. Okay. And you're going to parties and you're throwing your keys in the middle or whatever it may be. You both go off and you both have fun with things, and you come back together because you both love each other, and it's just a physical thing. But when does physical cross over to emotional? That's the crux of it with me, because yes, it can be physical, and if you look back over your relationships over all of the years, a lot of relationships are physical until they're not. They become emotional because we've all had physical relationships that when the emotional connection's not there, that's all they are. They just become physical. And that's great, but you do kind of get bored with it after a while because if you're not connecting with someone on other levels and you're not in tune with someone else, then you tend to go the other way because you've got too many disparities between you, the way that you think. We said this before, your morals. You know, you could be going out with someone that's the hottest guy in the world, the hottest girl in the world. But if you go out to dinner with them and you find them rude, it's just going to annoy you. And then eventually the hotness of that person starts to wear off because you start to see them as a person that you just don't get along with. And then you just think, they're not as attractive to me anymore. But at the same time, there's probably people that you've first met where you think they're really nice, but I'm not interested. And then as you get to know them, you find yourself becoming more and more interested in them because you get to know them on a deeper level. And then they becoming looking hot to you. And then you're more attracted to them. Now, there's always a danger for me with the non-monogamy that sooner or later, one of you, either you or your partner, are going to have a physical attraction that's going to cross over to something that's more emotional. And what happens then? Is it to the point of where you're honest with each other and you go, do you know what? I've met Jeff, and physically he's brilliant. You know, physically I'm having a great time with Jeff, but he makes me laugh, and I want to get to know Jeff more. Then that completely crushes everything that you've believed in. But play devil's advocate. Is that not the same as monogamy when you find out the person you're with is cheating? And is that what it boils down to? That cheating is cheating. You know, when does cheating become cheating? And this is another question. Is cheating sending text messages to another person that you may be interested in? Is cheating kissing someone? Is cheating holding hands? Is cheating going on a date where nothing happens? Does it count as cheating if you sleep in the same bed with someone with your clothes on, but you don't touch each other, nothing happens? You know, at what stage are we talking about cheating? At what stage are people comfortable? And I think this is a relationship thing. I think everyone in their relationship will probably have a discussion at times where they both agree on the boundaries of their relationships. And is that all we're talking about with monogamy versus non-monogamy? Are we talking about boundaries? That some people's boundaries are you don't text anyone, you don't look at anyone, you have no interest in anyone but me. And are some people's boundaries you can have physical relationships with someone, but as soon as they become emotional relationships with someone, that's cheating. So is monogamy, non-monogamy just where we draw the lines? Is it all of the same thing? It's just where you and your partner draw a line in the sand and say, you don't go over that. And if you do go over that, then we've got a problem. So is that what we're talking about? And is that what we've come to? That, and maybe that's the nice thing about it, that your partners are people that we go back to in the last podcast, that you have the same morals as, you have the same thought processes, and you have the same standards, and you think likewise. So is it about finding someone that reflects everything in you, and then they are your one? So is the one for you exactly the one for you? Is it Jeff and Dawn that, you know, are quite happy that they can have physical relationships with other people because they know that they've got each other? And if they go over that line in the sand where it becomes emotional with someone else, then that's cheating. And then that's the same as Fred and Brenda, who just say, you're not allowed to text anyone. And one of them finds out that they've been texting someone else. Nothing has happened, but they've crossed the line and then they've got problems. So they both are ended up in the same place with different rules, but they've both ended up in the same place because it's about that line in the sand. It's about where you draw that line in the sand with your partner. So I guess it's about variety. I guess it's about we're all different. It's about different religions, different cultures. And that's why relationships are a great thing, because it's finding that one for you that works for you. And more importantly, you work for them. And as different as relationships seem to be, eventually they may all end up the same, just with different parameters. So the real question is, what works for you? And are you being honest with yourself with what works for you? Do people practice accidental monogamy? You know, you're monogamous not because it's what you want, but because it's just what people do. It feels like societal norm, if you like. And non-monogamy, I think, could only work if it's intentional, if everyone's on the same page, everyone knows about it. And I don't mean the same book, I mean the exact same page. It needs to be a conversation. Maybe it's not about how many people you love and when, it's about how you love them and how you love each other. And it's got to be with honesty, with respect, and with both of your consents. You could be monogamous and miserable, or polyamorous and thriving, or vice versa. What matters is that you know yourself and you communicate well with each other. Because I don't think love is a one size fits all. I'm not even sure if it's a one size fit most. But even if it does, you've got to tailor it a little to suit both of you. And that's what it's about. Guys, it's been a pleasure. I really hope you've enjoyed this week. It's been full of long words that I can't pronounce a lot of the time. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow, because that's important. It keeps the podcast going. It just makes me know that I'm not in my front room talking to a camera without anyone listening. So stay safe, stay well, and thank you for joining 50 Shades and Grey. Bye bye.